serious face.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. It's good to have folks out here in the audience. Good to see you. Welcome to tonight's regular city council meeting from August 12th, 2024. We'll first get started with a roll call.
Jessica Andrade. Present. Ruth Causey. Here. Diane Crocker. Here. Matt Lehman.
Here.
Christopher McMorrin.
Here.
Teresa Nielsen.
Here.
Chaz Jones.
Presente.
It's starting to be so good.
We have a budding linguist audience.
Hola.
So tonight on the agenda, we are going to be recognizing one of our staff people for 20 years of service. We also have a proclamation on age-friendly communities. We're going to have a public comment period. We'll then go through our consent agenda and discuss new business about our water treatment plant contract for constructing or buying the equipment, and then also talking about our city logo and website redesign. And then we'll have a discussion on the Ordinance 885, the Phelps Annexation, followed by manual reports. And we're going to add a discussion about Philomath Community Services. Wrong acronym. Thank you for screwing me up. I at least had an acronym. Okay. Well, first on the agenda will be Mike. Mine coming up here. So, want to recognize Mike Vencill has been working with the city for 20 years as a public works utility worker.
Yep.
Is that right?
Utility maintenance worker.
Utility maintenance worker. So yeah, really proud of, I am so proud of all of our staff. We have so many folks that have been with us for a long time, and from what I hear, you do great work, and we're really happy that you're here with the city. And Kevin Fear, I believe, would like to say a few words.
Hey, Mikey.
Oh.
Yeah, Mike has been with us, well, actually longer than I have. He's been there the full 20 years. I'm a couple years behind him, so I've got to work a good part of his career with him, and it's been great working with him. Mike's one of our most reliable employees, and he gets stuck with kind of the little oddball projects and the stuff that I don't know if nobody else wants to do them, but we can rely on Mike to pull through and do whatever needs to be done to get them completed, and completed well and correctly. So that's one of his great abilities that he has and brings to the city. So it's an honor and really great to have him with us. We hope to get another 20 years from him.
He didn't say no. Thanks.
On behalf of the city of Philomath, Mike, 20 years. Cool. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you very much.
Give
Just, I got hired and it was meant to be a 18-month temporary thing while Gary Black was serving in Iraq. And 18 months in, he was already home, but he hadn't started back at work yet. And one of the other guys left, and I slid into that job because I didn't have anything lined up yet. And it never was supposed to be although I liked it, and I thought, well, yeah, I'll just stick around a little bit longer and figure out what I want to do. And 18 and a half years later, Right.
You let us know.
This is what I wanna do, and it's a great city to work for. Great place to raise family and, all coworkers that I work with, from management all the way down. Everyone's, really, good working relationships, and that's why somebody sticks around for 20 years. So you don't stick around for 20 years. It's a good place to be. Yep, I appreciate it.
So you are more than welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting. Mojo is on the agenda, and this is going to impact you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, we'll leave it to that. I'd like to move on. Unless you would like to speak for public comment, anybody? Alright.
Congratulations. Hasta luego.
Anyone wants to come back? Excellent. So next on the agenda, we have resolution 24-18 on topic of age-friendly communities proclamation. And Councilor Moore, would you like to talk a little bit about this, or
Yeah, I can start it off and we'll see where it goes. This comes to you from the Inclusivity Committee, and this was brought to the Inclusivity Committee by Jane Sherwood, who's a community member who's very involved in the Inclusivity Committee. And I don't remember how it came to her, but essentially the AARP has this network of age-friendly states and communities, which is supposed to be kind of this movement to make communities more livable and friendly to aging folks, but it's also supposed to be a little more all-encompassing to be friendly to all ages, so to kids and to older folks and everything in between. So it describes here in the memo a little bit about why this would be a beneficial thing to our city. Essentially, the proclamation we're looking at tonight is just a checkbox we need to do if we want to be a part of the network of age-friendly communities, but it also states some of our values and everything. And then once we're a part of that, then we can help kind of get some resources and networking and our community a little more age-friendly. And then it also comes with some obligation on our part to follow through on that. And I think we've already made some good steps, like ADA accessibility, things like that, but we want to keep that momentum going. So that's where this came from. I guess any questions before we actually read the proclamation?
The age-friendly insert from AARP,
Yes.
the program process, is that something that will all be done by inclusivity? The developing action plan, implementing the action plan, tracking progress, you envision all of that whole process being done by inclusivity?
I think as much of it as the Inclusivity Committee, it would be appropriate for them to do. Yeah, they seem enthusiastic about this. I think anything that would need, like, the Inclusivity Committee is not going to approve infrastructure changes or policy changes.
would a contractor be involved in any of this planning process?
No.
No, not that we've discussed.
Possibly, or no?
What?
Is that a possibility?
It's not come up, so no. I mean, I guess if you wanted that, we could, but
It's free.
yeah,
And-
I mean,
yeah.
right, and that's part of joining the network is they have a lot of resources available to kind of guide you through that. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Seeing none, we have a motion.
Yes, I'd like to move that we approve resolution 24-18 with the following specific changes, which were outlined in my email this morning to the council. Two, and the first where the word safety should be safe. sixth whereas, it appears there as though there's a word missing, and it seems like transportation should be cohesive, responsive to the needs of our community members, although I'm certainly open to other suggestions. The last whereas should be all caps, and the superscript in the phrase passed by the council this 12th day of August 2024 should be lowercase. There you have it.
There we go.
I'll second that.
Okay.
But, I think you need to.
I would consider all of those to be Scrivener's corrections with the exception of the sixth whereas where Counselor Kazi made the comment about the cohesive line.
And responsive.
So the others are just corrections.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So we have a motion to approve as amended and seconded. We have any further discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none.
Second.
Councilor Andrade. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Councilor Moore, would you do us the honor and read the resolution?
City of Philomath Resolution 24-18, a resolution for an age-friendly community. Whereas the City of Philomath desires to create an age-friendly community that is safe, healthy, accessible, and prosperous for all residents. And whereas the Nielsberg research data updated in 2023 shows Philomath, Oregon having 20.55% of our population being under the age of 15, 24.25% are 15 to 29 years of age, 42.44% are 30 to 64 years of age, and 12.76% of our community citizens are over 60. A membership in the network of age-friendly communities includes and allows access to and support from nationwide resources and expertise. And whereas the health and safety of Philomath citizens of all ages is important to our community's well-being. And whereas, as our general population changes, we must be able to adapt to those changes. And whereas decisions based on land use, housing, and transportation should be cohesive to the needs of our community, cohesive and responsive to the needs of our community members. And whereas community support for this work includes volunteers from our city departments, health and community services, social networks, and community members. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Philomath, Oregon will commit to promoting the health, safety, and sustained economic growth of its citizens and participate in and support the age-friendly communities network. Passed by the council this 12th day of August 2024 and approved by the mayor this 12th day of August 2024.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. Next on the agenda is public comments. Do we have anyone online?
To vote on that?
You're not.
Oh, we do, but it's not. Sorry.
So next on the agenda, we have the consent agenda. Do you have any edits or motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion made by Councilor Andrade, seconded by Councilor Crosby. Any further discussion, comment? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand and tap.
I'm sorry, I was distracted by the city manager. Can you tell me who made it?
Brought it, seconded by Councilor Crosby.
Thank you.
Chris.
I can leave.
No, you're gonna stay here.
IT or I can do minutes.
And you did just start working here, so.
Motion carries unanimously.
It's too late.
Next on the agenda, we have the water treatment and membrane filtration equipment. Chelsea, is that you?
Kevin might do the.
Actually, you want to jump in here?
And the video's already up and started. Look at that.
Hey, we've been waiting a little over a year to get back on track on this thing, so we're firing her up right away. You have before you the request to purchase the filtration portion of the water treatment plant. It takes some time to build and to get here. They started repairs on the reservoir slab a couple weeks ago, and expect to be done with that by the end of the this month, the repairs, so we can kind of get back on track. And that allows West Tech Engineering to continue designing the plant now around the filtration equipment that we will be purchasing tonight. From West Tech and the design engineer, we have Mr. Pete Blumenthal, PE from West Tech. Don't mistake that PE. It's professional engineer, not PE teacher like I had thought. But the last couple of years, I don't know that we know the difference. So, Pete, let her go if you have anything else you want to add.
No, I just think we wrote an RFP around some really good performance metrics and reliability metrics for this equipment. And we received a good proposal. Aria Filtra is a well-known company. They make really good equipment. And that's important for the city because this is a long horizon purchase. And you deserve a lot of mileage out of a robust and well-constructed plant. So I think the letter that I wrote speaks to some of the details that are coming next, and that is just to work out some of the minor timing issues of the contract with them. But at this point, I would recommend that the council award to Aria Filtra.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Kevin or Peter? Counselor Conley?
Are there other municipalities in Oregon that have equipment from this manufacturer?
Yes. So most recently, the city of Bend purchased equipment from them, and they're a 15 million gallon per day plant. So it's a large plant. You know, they, like a lot of other large municipalities, have gone through a very thorough and robust process. The city of Spokane uses this equipment, another 15 million gallon plant. And quite honestly, Aria Filtra makes a range of equipment. So you shouldn't feel like because you're a smaller plant at 2 million gallons, 2 million expandable to 4, that you're getting any kind of disservice. They just formulate these plants for, you know, the size of the community. So other projects or other cities in Oregon that are like-sized to Philomath is Cottage Grove, Creswell, City of Jefferson. One of the earliest plants from Aria Filtra was St. Helens. So you're in a good community. One of the things that was really important for the operations side is that you aren't operating a plant that's one-off. Your operators have a community of resources up and down the valley. So, and any operator will tell you that, you know, occasionally things go down, just standard procedure, that you have experienced operators that you can rely on in other cities to come help you out. And I think one of the points I made in my presentation was, you know, resiliency for you guys as a community is founded in, you know, the depth of expertise that you can bring to bear on a problem. So I think you're in good hands with this equipment package and with the operators community that you have.
Thank you. Oh, or another question?
To move that we award the membrane filter contract to Aria Filtra for $2,675,163.
So we have a motion made by Counselor Causey and seconded by Counselor Crocker. Any further comments or questions? Counselor McMorrin?
I just wanted to say, after hearing about the fact that Bend has the same type of filter, I was very excited to see that the LOC conference has an optional tour of that treatment plant in Bend. So I will report back and let you know what it looks like.
And find out if that enabled them to get the splash pad.
Yes, yes, I will get to the bottom of it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, and say aye. Aye, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, Pete.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
You're welcome to stick around for the rest of the meeting.
Maybe I'll hide off here and watch.
So next, we're gonna be talking about the city logo and website redesign update. Is that Chelsea?
I'll take that one. Okay, so we have talked to you all a little bit through budget, strategic planning and such about our need to go out for an RFP for our website, and that has come from our current website company was bought out by another provider, and they have changed a lot of their platforms. So that's going to be more expensive for us when they stop supporting the platform that we're on currently. And it just seemed to be in the best interest because it is an ongoing cost every year. And the website's really important to, the community and outreach for the community, that we just look at what our options are with our current company and their new platforms, and then other companies as well. So we do have an RFP published right now for that. Chris did also talk about city logo, the fact that currently we have the city seal, which is great, but a city seal is often, in a lot of cities, especially in today's world, is reserved for, city-specific documents, whereas a logo can be more of a city brand. And so we're looking at, Chris did talk about some options for costing that process. You can go online and say, I want a logo from one of those companies. It can be very fast. There's my logo, great. To a huge branding where you're getting all of the branding and all of the colors and all of the process, and it's quite costly. So we tried to find something that was affordable for our community, but still would get us a professional input, which is that we asked the designers who worked on with the art committee for the downtown streetscape project if they were interested. They were very affordable for us through the processes that we use them for that, and they have done the research, so we won't have to pay them to research our community, to get to know us. They already know us and know our community, which is great. And so we've asked them to participate in a process with us, and we've, based off what some other cities our size have done recently, it kind of actually seems to be a discussion. It was just on our city manager board recently. This seems to be a process that has been successful for cities to kind of get some people who have some expertise. So I think I listed in here, we've reached out to Visit Corvallis, Max Stivity, and the PIO for City of Corvallis. They know have experience with recent branding, going through the process, and they're in our general area, as well as we're hoping to have a city council member represent on the committee that's preferably from the art committee, but that's just, we thought would be helpful with the relationships with the designers and then our process that we've gone through on that committee. And so, yeah, we're basically, this is for an update. If you had any questions about it or comments, and then there's a suggested motion to appoint someone to be on that team to help select a logo for us. I will say that the people that I've reached out to have all said that they would be really excited and to participate. So,
Excellent. Any questions, comments?
You can just clarify, be involved in the logo development is pretty straightforward, but how does that relate to the website?
So because we're going to be redesigning the website somehow, it would be best and most cost effective if we had our logo and our chosen colors before we get to that process. But we have a timeline on our website because they're going to stop supporting our website near the end of this year. We've been trying to push that out as far as we can, but we're going to basically, our platform is going to become unsupported. It doesn't mean our website will just go away, but it will mean that we will start to have quite a few functionality issues. So we just really want to get the logo and some colors picked so that we can have that to give to whoever is going to work on our website.
Okay. So the logo, the people who work on the logo redesign would not necessarily work on the website.
No, they're separate, yeah, but we would have that for whatever company does the website.
Thank you.
Councilor Moore?
I was just curious if you could expand on how often you think this group can meet.
Sure.
And kind of what the process will look like.
Okay. So Chris and I did present a timeline to the designers to say, I said, does this seem crazy? Does this seem like realistic? You tell us. And what we presented was, I think, about 3 meetings. So it's going to be like 3 meetings. So we're going to try to really get a lot of work done at each of those meetings. And they think about an 8-week time frame between start and coming back to the council and saying, here's what we found. So pretty quick timeline. The designers felt like they would be able to do the work in between in about 2-week increments.
Okay.
Between those meetings.
And then I will ask, are either of the 2 named individuals interested, or?
I think we both are.
I texted about this earlier.
A thumb war, do we?
Curious, is there harm in putting us both, and then if one of us can't be there, it's not the end of the world or something.
I think it's fine. If you're both in- Our thought was it'd be good to have some council representation there. So we put that, but if you're both interested, I think it'd be great.
And then are there any others that are also?
I'm gonna make a motion.
Councilor Nielsen?
No, I'm not interested, sorry. I was gonna make a motion if I could.
You were volunteering?
No.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Ruth Causey and Christopher McMorrin to represent the city council on the city logo design team.
Second it.
We have a motion made by Councilor Nielsen and seconded by Councilor Crocker. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands.
And thank you.
Oh, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Next up, we are now going to discuss Philomath Community Services. Request for, is Chelsea, or is this?
I'm taking this one.
Okay.
So this request came in from Philomath Community Services, following the improvements to their gravel parking area. This came by email, so it should be attached staple that was on the table when you got here.
There it is.
And apologize for the email. I sent the email first, which was more of the documentation, I believe, the last page in the STIP documentation of the funding that they received last year from the city, just to report back more or less on what those funds were used for, some explanation. And then they're asking for some additional funding to, again, help with some of those expenses they incurred in improving the gravel parking lot next to the building. I think the letter's pretty straightforward. Did invite Sharon to be here this evening. I don't know if she'll be able to make it. I believe that the intent of this was to ask for some funding kind of outside of the annual community services funding that we provide. So I fully anticipate that we'll see a separate request for that funding for other operations or other things similar like what they have on the back page that they did with the funds last year, and this would be a request outside of that. That's appropriate. I don't have a lot of details on the actual work that got done, other than to say I know they contracted with Hughes Excavating to do the work. I'm not sure where the rock came from exactly, but I do know that Hughes, as they set out, had their kind of total costs that they incurred and the work that Hughes performed for them. And if you haven't been out there to look at it, it looked great. Yeah, so they're just looking for a little bit of funding from the city to help pay for that.
Which fund in the budget would this come from?
Is that for discussion?
Oh, it's not.
From the city manager's salary.
Yeah, I will say I guess a little back history, the city, when we first were talking with Worker Community Services about needing our lot back, that we were needing to expand the plant to in order to have the treatment plant there and what that would mean for taking that property back. And we had some preliminary discussions about helping move the fence and move the gate and arrange for a different way in and out through the Hughes area. And what that would be, and I think that the city was pretty helpful and pretty straightforward about, we want to help. Obviously, we can't, pave you an entirely new lot, but let us know what we can do to help. We need to provide a load of rock, or, if there's things we can do to help, let us know. And so, we did pull through on there. We'd offer that. I think when we first got the look of all of the rock that they were asking for from Hughes, I was like, wow, that's a lot more than like a load of rock that we had offered. And so we kind of went back and forth. We did talk with Pack about getting some of the grindings from the highway, and they grind all that up, and actually had them lined up to donate that and roll it out and level it out and everything for them. But unfortunately, PCS had already entered into this contract with Hughes, and already had kind of a game plan, and we're needing just the aggregate rock donated. And so they weren't able to take advantage of that opportunity. There were some concerns about the petroleum in the product, like seeping in the groundwater, and some other concerns as well, which there's reports on, but this type of aggregate is used for resurfacing and creating parking lots all over. It's a very, very common thing that it gets used for. But I think it was more a matter of the timing. I don't want to speak for PCS entirely, but the concerns I heard were, we already have an agreement with Hughes to do this work. We don't want to back out of that agreement. We're really just looking for funding to help pay for that, as opposed to we're really looking for somebody new to come in and essentially do the project, since we're in agreement with Hughes. So a little mixed about that. I feel like we had a really good source of help that we could have provided that wouldn't have cost the city anything. And instead we're being asked to pay some funding to help pay for the project, as they kind of already entered into it. And again, I feel like we support PCS annually with contributions that come from that shared revenue. And we send that out pretty liberally to Philomath Community Services, amongst others. So I have a little bit of reservation with the request, but I understand why they're making it. And, it was our retaking of the parking lot that's led to some of these improvements they've had to make on their site. So I'm a little torn on this one, and happy to hear from the council on where you stand.
I was hoping she was going to be here, but I don't know, maybe you have information. I guess one thought I had was, I feel like every time I talk with her or anyone at PCS, they always talk about how they need to move buildings, and they're like actively searching for like moving in a new facility. And I think this is a good idea, and especially if we're the ones who are kind of screwing. I know we own the land, but like we're the ones that are kind of screwing up the current parking lot. I'm okay with trying to make it right, except if we're gonna like make it right, and then a year from now they're gonna move. So I guess that was my only, especially because then we also, as they outlined in here, just gave other money for sort of capital improvement on that building. So I guess it's just sort of like, that's my only hesitation. I love PCS. I think we should support them, but like, I have a little bit of reservation about pouring a bunch of money into that particular site if they're like actively curious to hear from our PCS liaison.
Go ahead.
Well, I support PCS greatly. I also think Hughes is a wonderful community partner. I think they would have worked with us had they been asked, and it just could be wrong, but I think they've done a lot for PCS in our community, and I think we could have gone to them and said, we have a free option, can we do that? And I'm sure they would have said yes.
So Nielsen.
As a PCS liaison, I've been in a few meetings, even with the Hughes, when they were walking through the property and figuring out where to move gates and where the driveway is. Hughes is allowing PCS to use their driveway through their property where their trucks are while this construction is going on to facilitate the ease in which the clients can get the products that they need. My understanding, now this is my understanding from the meetings in front of I was privy to in regards to that pre-working, is that with as many clients that have needs, physical needs that need to be met by the proper construction of a parking area that would allow access and be a permanent thing that could just be have longer longevity and durability than what maybe we were offering. It seemed advantageous to go this route to make a more permanent. Now, in regards to the campaign for finding a new location, they are outgrowing the building. That's not something that's not known by. They really could use a lot more space. But that campaigns to find a new building, to find property and the money to build the type of square footage that they are needing, takes years. Currently, there is some funding. I attend the board meetings there, but it is a long and tedious process to acquire a new building, and the campaign is just now beginning. So how long that will take, is it 5 years, is it 10 years, we don't know. And from the meetings I've attended, I don't think they know exactly when they're talking about. But they do need to meet the needs of their current clients, safety-wise and accessibility-wise to get in, which is why I believe that they went with Hughes, because timing and accessibility and the quality of the work that they thought they could guarantee for that location, that's my understanding. And in regards to the finances of PCS, I don't mean to, and I'm not breaking any things here, but their numbers are growing, and those individuals that they serve, the numbers are growing in each of the organizations, Gleaners and Food Bank and June's Kids Closet and the Garden, and it's a lot. And so I don't I can't say that there's going to be a decrease in need over the next few years. So their expenditures, rather than decreasing, are increasing. So with that being considered, and the amount of help and the number of people that they help in our community, pretty substantial. over 700 families for Gleaners. I can't even remember how many families for Food Bank, but it's a lot. So, and everything considered, I think we can do this for them. I feel that they want us maybe making some sacrifices so they can better meet the needs of our citizens, our community members, as they serve them, those that are food insecure, those that have special needs, and thus for.
Thank you. Other comments, questions?
This letter was dated June 4th. Is the reason that we haven't been discussing it before now? I don't know if there's.
Yeah, I'll own that. The request came quite a while ago. It missed the last meeting, and I didn't have a second meeting, so some of that was just on me on getting on the agenda, and even then, it slipped through and didn't get it actually on the agenda. I was like, oh shoot, Friday. Well, I was going to get that on the agenda, didn't do it, so that's why we're talking about it tonight and adding it to. So I'll own that on being slow and getting in front of you. The request did come back in the first part of July.
One thing just in practicality, I feel like this could be part of the social service funding ask. It seems like it would be appropriate to do that. I understand that we took some of the land that, or they're using some of our land, and we kind of in a month. So I have a little bit of hesitation about that. And then just noting that last year they were going to spend the funds on one thing and then kind of swapped it out for another thing. And they also asked for a lot more money than they typically did. And we did that. Then they swapped. Then they're like, oh, well, we don't need that anymore. We're going to use it all for something else. So my thoughts. Councilor Kazi.
No, you.
I guess I think about it kind of similarly to like the 16th Street project, where there were a few people where like came in and tore everything up. We felt like it was legally owe them anything, but I'm okay with trying to kind of make things right. Ones that are causing a ruckus over there, but yeah.
I'd like to move that the board Philomath Community Services $6,000 to support improving the south parking lot area of their facility.
And I'll second that.
So we have a motion made by Councilor Kazi, seconded by Councilor Nielsen. Any further discussion? Councilor?
I'd like to know where the money is gonna come from and what's not gonna be funded instead.
Question? Chris, you have some suggestions?
There's some street money that we were gonna put towards like some of the restriping, some crosswalks that we were gonna pay for on 15th Street that we were gonna do. I mean, there's a little bit of money in the street maintenance budget that we could put towards this project. I mean, another option, I don't think it's contrary to the motion, but that community services funding that we do have a line item for that comes from our state revenue sharing. Officially, those requests come in by the end of the month, and the finance committee will be looking at those next month. So we could kind of tag that in and say, hey, the first 6,000 of that is going towards this effort, and here's the balance, and that gets divvied up amongst everybody else. That wouldn't have a negative impact on like other city street type projects. It would be more community contributions. And then there's a little miscellaneous in the city council budget, but that gets eaten up pretty quick on odds and ends stuff that we do every year with city council. There's not a whole lot of, as you know, we don't have a lot of just empty line items in the budget. Everything gets spoken for pretty good each year. So, I mean, if I had to make a recommendation, I'd recommend that we look at the annual funding we give to the community services groups, and we allocate the first 6,000 of that towards this effort, and the balance of it is what we have to divvy up between all of the requests that come in at the end of the month.
Do anyone have a motion to amend the motion? Councilor Kazi?
I'll amend the motion to stipulate that this pretty much just what you said.
From the social service funding.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion to amend by Councilor Kazi, seconded by Councilor Nielsen. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you for that.
That was just the amendment, right?
To amend, you are right.
Yeah, we do.
How about we, any other further discussion on motion, amended motion? Seeing none, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye. Motion carries, oh wait, any opposed? Say nay. Okay, Councilor we have, it passes 6-1. Thank you very much.
I'll let Sharon know tomorrow. I'll give her an email and give her a call and just let her know. And make sure we encourage them to still submit an application, which I'm sure will be coming in by the end of the month.
What is usually the typical amount, that, like the total pot we have for social service? 35?
Yeah, 35,000 or so.
Does that fluctuate at all, or is it usually about that?
Pretty consistent.
A few thousand, right, like a couple thousand.
So, no, 30-ish, 29 maybe, okay.
I will say the 11,000 that they were granted last year was pretty high for.
Right.
So it was at, I think
So
they're
you did
typical in the 5,000 or 6,000 range, and we went, $4,000 over that, 4 or 5 grand over that last year because they had some special needs that they were needing.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
Can we just take a 5-minute break? Before we go to the next agenda item.
Social service. $0.80.
What?
For a cupcake. I'm sorry. That seemed like a lot to me. Maybe.
I bet it was, I bet it was pretty big.
Could have been 5 minutes. I
Oh,
don't believe
okay.
you.
Okay, so next on the agenda is Ordinance 885, Phelps Annexation.
So I didn't do an agenda item summary on that. Pretty self-explanatory, just coming off of a meeting from a few weeks ago. When the city council approved the annexation of property up on North 9th Street after the vote. And the planning side of things, the land use side of things, that becomes official by way of ordinance. This is the ordinance that officially and legally brings that property inside city limits. You know, put the legal descriptions there. It also includes the legal description for the street, that portion of 9th Street, which just was never annexed prior to with any of the other properties on that 9th Street that came in, just from lack of legal description. So Otherwise, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. This is a roll call vote, but I'm happy to answer any questions the council has before that. I do want to say I appreciate Ruth really doing the lion's share and making sure that this was all pulled together, getting it noticed to the public in time and noticed to Department of Revenue as well, so they go through and double, triple check everything. So thank you, Ruth, City Recorder, for pulling all this together.
We know if the owner appealed the decision on the zone change.
Not received appeal, and I don't anticipate one after talking with their representative.
Thanks.
I have a question. Is there any reason that we should ask the county to upgrade the road to city standards before they take it on?
Ask, they'll say no, or they'll say just leave it. I mean, it really doesn't change a lot other than just updating the map on where that city line is. We all want the road upgraded, and county wants the road upgraded. It's a funding question, a priority question. So I think we'll beat that drum regardless of whether it's inside city limits or outside city limits on the map. So I don't think it's gonna make a lick of difference, honestly. I think it's really just a matter of cleaning up the map and, yeah, that's really it.
We're not taking over the maintenance of the road, right?
Nope,
We're not?
jurisdiction's the same. Nope,
No.
still their jurisdiction, they still maintain it. They'll maintain it until it gets brought up to city standards, and then we accept jurisdiction of the road. This doesn't change jurisdiction, this is just the line on the map.
Okay.
Doesn't change, there's no taxes, there's no maintenance changes, nothing really changes other than the map. But it does make the map make a little more sense, does
Yeah.
a little jog down, so.
And that is the most important consideration.
It's very important. Those of us who look at maps a
Spatial.
lot. Exactly.
Just this double bold line, no good reason.
Roll call?
To meet our city's charter requirements, first I'll read the ordinance by title.
How about that?
We no longer
Bit
have
of a lawyer.
brewer here to do that.
Aw.
An ordinance proclaiming the annexation of certain described real property to the city of Philomath. This is ordinance number 885. Counselor Nielsen,
Yes.
Andrade,
Yes.
Kazi,
Yes.
Crocker,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
McMorrin,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes. Excellent. We just grew.
Can I ask a related question?
Sure.
What happened if we voted no?
We would bring it back. And we would talk about why it was a no, and we would try to convince you otherwise, and we would bring it back.
Yes.
Yes.
So does that go?
Quick answer.
Oh, never mind. I read the thing.
You did.
So,
As much as we all appreciate your individuality, sometimes you just have to show up and vote.
but if the council voted no,
No, that's what I meant.
yeah, if the council ended up voting no in a month, then the landowner could then appeal to DLCD, right? No?
If a member of the council voted no, this would appear on the next agenda for another roll call vote, and a majority would approve it.
What if the council voted no the next time?
If a majority of the council
Majority vote
voted no?
Constitutional crisis.
According to the Land Use Board of Appeals.
Okay. Next up, move on to the management report.
So, summer, busy. July was especially busy. I did get a little bit of time off, so things were a little bit lighter, but again, appreciate staff picking up as we've been away and out, but a lot getting done. Appreciate, again, Ruth's comments on the election coming up. This is probably the appropriate time to just do a quick public service announcement. Please be respectful of your staff's neutrality in elections, which I know you will be, and you've always done a great job of that. As you know, we don't sign petitions, we don't put yard signs in our yards. We will be very, very neutral. Our role is to facilitate, to make sure that you have the information that all of the candidates do. Ruth does a great job as elections official for the city of towing that line, that everybody's playing by those rules. So please just be respectful of city staff. Don't be offended if you don't see your yard sign in my yard. You won't see it, and not because I don't love you, just I won't put it there. So, and don't put staff in that situation where they're being asked to do that either. So just be respectful there. Also, farmers market, public appearances, all those things. When you're there as a city council member, not as an elected official seeking re-election, right? And so again, just be respectful of your situation. There's plenty of time to campaign on your own. Don't take advantage of city-sponsored functions to do that. It just puts, again, everybody in a weird perspective, a weird situation. So we wish all of you the best in your campaigns, those that are campaigning. But yeah, just the city, the staff level is neutral, and we don't want to use city facilities to help your campaign. No taking out ads in the city newsletter. You won't see us posting things about your campaigns. We have in the past posted if there's like a get to know you type event, or a debate between our mayors running off, something like that is still pretty neutral to just say that there's an event taking place. So that's appropriate. But if it's for you kind of individually, like you're doing a get to know this candidate at my house type of thing, that's not something that we're gonna promote or use the city website or city resources for. Get to know the candidates in general, and everybody's invited. Let me know, coordinate with me, we can get that type of information out there if that's something you wanna coordinate. But again, we won't be spending a lot of staff time to help facilitate those types of things.
We have started planning something so cool.
Just let me know. League conference is coming up, make note of that, those that are attending. Ethics Commission, we talked through a little bit. Urban Park, that's a big one. Did I put a dollar number in there? It's an $800,000 grant that we're getting, most likely. We're one of the ranked projects. There were only a few projects that didn't get ranked and supported for funding. So Oregon Parks Direct's got a very generous budget this year from the legislature, and so they're able to fund the vast majority of projects that got submitted this year, which is great. So that'll go towards public restrooms at Skirvin Park. Also a portion of the grandstands improvements and some of the accessibility challenges that the new site's gonna have. So
Is that what you requested? Did you put a grant request amount when you?
yeah,
Is it the amount you requested?
we requested $800,000.
Yep.
We've got a match, but that match has already been made up for with the funds that the Frolic and legislators put forward. So we're good there. That's exciting. Moving on there on City Hall. I think by the end of this week, I've gotten 2 proposals already. I'll have a third, maybe a fourth by the end of this week, and we'll just select who's actually gonna prepare those bid documents. Our procurement process for that is pretty straightforward. I think we'll just pick one, and then that'll take, I haven't read through those that close. It'll take a month or 2 to get those documents ready, then we'll bring RFP to go out for actual construction. RFP and contract will come back to the council for approval. So we'll get council approval on that. Facade grant, we're taking those steps forward, so we'll get that taken care of, finalize that this week. Citizens Academy will start in September. So we've started looking at calendaring and doing some outreach there. It's hard to believe it's August, and that's going to be next month already. So look for this week. And National Out, we talked about a little bit. Planner, Michael Bidwell, I think several of you met him already. He's doing great. Got his feet on the ground and doing great with a couple of staff reports already. He's got a first planning commission meeting on Monday. Great. Week from today. I won't go through everything. Human resources in there. Police have been busy. Public Works is super busy. There's lots of detail there. any specific questions there. I think Kevin might still be on the line. But yeah, happy to answer any questions council's got.
Councilor Lehman.
Yeah, I was wondering if we can get a little bit of an update on the situation. I've been getting phone calls in the last month, like from people I didn't expect to get phone calls from.
There's two homes that is currently the focus to try to get certificate of occupancy on. DEQ had a kind of a post-construction report that they wanted to see come from the environmental consultant, PBS. We fully anticipated that they were going to get that report, review it, and approve it before we got the request for the C of O, and it happened out of order. We got the request for C of O and kind of held the line, said, we really need you to get the report to DEQ, get that approved, and then go forward. There's some stormwater issues that are still being resolved as far as plans getting submitted, getting corrected, and inspections done. So the city is still withholding a manhole that needs to get installed. So the city is withholding C of O on these two specific houses. It's unfortunate. Families were kind of promised weeks ago that they'd be in their homes by now. And due to these inspections that need to be done and these reports that need to be submitted and approved and all these other things, we're not issuing C of O yet. Primarily, we want the homes to be assured that they're safe. I'm not too worried about stormwater right now today, but the fact is that infrastructure needs to be installed and inspected and ready before we issue C of O. So those two have generated a lot of phone calls, right, Ruth? A lot of phone calls, a lot of back and forth, a lot of messages between realtors, future homeowners, lenders, et cetera, et cetera. So
Grandmothers of buyers.
grandmothers of buyers, thank you.
That is.
So that may be stirring a little bit of pot. You may be getting outreach from those specific homes. Other homes are just down the road. So other homes have also been sold. Dates have been committed to, and they're not really any further along with stormwater or reports either. So the reports have been done. They've been submitted. DEQ just today gave the response back. There's some additional material that they're wanting to add to the report and substantiate it before they're going to say, yes, we're good with this and approve it on their standpoint. And then, as I said, the city's still waiting on some finalized stormwater stuff on our end as well. So we're very mindful of the families and trying to get into homes. We feel for them. We're very empathetic with them and get it. I say empathetic because I've been there trying to get into a home and trying to find a place to stay with 6 kids and 2 dogs for a week or two. It's difficult. So I totally am empathetic and I get it. But we also have to hold the line with the developer and make sure that homes are safe and things are getting done properly for these 2 homes and for the next round of homes as well, which we don't want to be in this exact same scenario with the next round of homes. I think that we're getting it figured out on what's expected and that we are going to be holding the line. But yeah, so that's probably what most of the calls are about on this specific one. There's been a little bit of rise again on the lot line adjustment situation.
My second question.
I just spoke with the resident today. They're actually a new resident who bought the home recently, like last year. So they weren't in the original group that bought from Mill Pond Crossing. It's difficult to get everything to line up just right. I did talk to the city attorney. I think we're going to take a different approach this time around, just a different tool rather than lot line adjustments. I think we'll just look at a replat. The end result is the same. It's just a matter of the process to get there. And I think there may be a chance that it gets more people on board earlier and it becomes a little bit more apparent on who the outliers are that haven't stepped up to the table to take care of things the way that they need to. And once they get identified, then we probably will look at some issuing of fines or threat of fines in order to get people to take the steps they need to do to get their property into compliance, which for the last 1.5 to 2 years saying please. So try to avoid that, but I think that is the process we're going to go. Again, still work with the attorney. If that's the case, we'll get the replat, which is essentially here's where the new lines will be. That still has to go to the lenders, still has to get approved, has to go to the homeowners, get approved, have to get the signatures on there. But again, it'll be very evident that spot of whose signatures aren't there. And hopefully that puts a little bit of pressure on those owners to address this rather than ignore it. So that effort will continue and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up soon. I mean, when this first started, I thought we'd have it wrapped up in 3 to 4 months, and here we are 2 years later. So it's been real unfortunate.
I'm just curious what the ramifications of not doing the plat adjustment is.
There's none right now other than a potential fine from the city, but we've been hesitant to fine property owners for a problem that they didn't create, that they purchased essentially unknowingly. Mr. Miller is at the table, willing to pay for, he paid for the lot line adjustment applications already. You know, I don't think that the funding is really an issue here. Not that it won't be at some point when all the appraisals come through and everything else, but at this point, he's been at the table and paying for things as they go. It's really, some property owners have been great and right on top of it early on and throughout, and others, we can't even just call us back or email back or even let us know that they got our message. So it's just been a mixed bag. And the whole time, it's easy to throw stones at the city and the developer, right? But really, the property owners need some added incentive to do that. And right now, the only incentive is, you know, get this guy to quit calling me. It isn't really working, so.
Right. I guess I was more asking like what's the problem that we're fixing by doing a lot adjustments?
Many of the homes don't meet our 5-foot setback requirement. So they're 3 foot from the property line, which when you put a fence up, now you're talking about a 3-foot space to try to fit a firefighter or a piece of equipment or whatever to get through. So some of it's fire life safety. Some of the lines are off by a foot, but they're a foot off on this line and then they're a foot and a half on the north, you know, on one side, and they're off on the other side too. So the cumulative effect of that, I mean, at the end of the day, they just don't meet the city setback requirements, which is 5 foot setback on both side yards. That's by the letter of the law, that's the problem we're trying to fix. Some variances allow for a little bit of shimmy on either side, for eaves and other stuff, but on the lot lines themselves, there's not like a variance process. There's no real easy fix other than to move the lines to where they legally meet the city's code requirements. Yep. But it's not, I will just say, it's not all of the homes are equally spaced apart from each other, sufficient that it meets the state fire code. So we're not talking about anybody's life is in danger and this is something that needs immediate attention. It's really about, it's not compliant with the city's development code. There's a reason we have that 5-foot side yard requirement. We want to get it correct and across the board get it fixed. And we've got a responsible party at the table today that's willing to pay for it to get fixed. And we may not have that person there a year or 2 or 3 from now, so let's get it fixed now. Also, maybe they're still willing to pay for it. So, thanks.
I'm sure someone will tell me if I'm out of line. But the 15th Street crosswalk, which sounded like it was maybe going to be on the cutting block for another part of the PCS. I am concerned because I know the person has come to me twice about that and said that they came to City Hall months ago and were promised that it would get done. And now as school is approaching, they're very concerned about the safety of children. That's the, from the elementary school, the kids walk by and there's no crosswalk on 15th, so it's not safe for them. For the seniors, this person said they also need one across Applegate because several of the seniors have reported to her that they've almost gotten hit. And there is a sloped, you know, the sidewalk, it's sloped down for it looking like it should be a crosswalk, but there's no crosswalk there. So is that gonna get done? Do we know when? Or is it not gonna get done?
I did talk to Public Works today about that. I think part of it is just that whole area is a construction zone, so they have been concerned with all of the truck traffic and equipment traffic to do that. So they hope to get that, the 15th Street portion done soon. They know school is going to start, and I think that they have their eye on that. As far as the other crosswalk goes, I think that that's going to be a further discussion for staff. It's not a quote unquote normal place to put a crosswalk, and the ODOT project is redoing a lot of that pedestrian safety area, which is just down from that. And some of the considerations are, sometimes when you put a crosswalk, it may seem like people cross there, that's an obvious place, but you're actually creating a false sense of security in a place that that vehicles are not going to see and identify as a crosswalk, so it can actually create a worse safety issue. So Chris hasn't had a chance to talk to Kevin about it, but I did. Kevin did reach out to me today.
The little ramps that go down, would that not indicate a place to cross?
I'm imagining that those may have been put there for equipment. I don't know. I wasn't here. It's possible that because there's equipment that goes into that park to be used. I don't know, but it's not a traditional street crossing area, and Public Works would prefer to wait until we get that island done at the end there with the ODOT project and just be able to assess the whole area once it's in. But the other crosswalk, they did say that that's on their list and they're
Starts at the end of August.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I will talk to Kevin. I do know that the 15th Street, crossing 15th was on the list. And I assumed we were waiting for some of the construction to get finished up there. So I hadn't talked with Kevin on date, but I know that's on the list. But the other crossing there, we hadn't talked a lot about, but I'd actually oppose that for the reasons that Chelsea said. There's a pedestrian crossing at 15th and one at 14th, well, just down from 15th. There'll be pedestrian improvements there where it meets the highway, and there'll be additional improvements at 16th Street. To have one kind of mid-block where 15th comes in, that tease isn't somewhere where motors.
The little island going to the park, that's going to be a
That
crosswalk?
will be improved, yeah, that will be improved.
And that is going to be a crosswalk, so they just have to walk down to there, okay.
So I think, and it's close enough to that one that.
Yeah, I think they
get what we
that way to
need
go
out of
down
it.
anyway there. There's quite a few people that walk that and they're not clear on where, and even from the park over to like the bank area, that's a scary place to park. 'Cause I walk that.
And there'll be a new rapid flashing beacon one right there at
Right there.
14th Street as well, so
14th Street.
that whole thing will be much safer, yeah.
I have three more items, sorry. Psilocybin, are we able to put a moratorium on that to wait before we bring it to a vote or a discussion again? Or is this something, it seems like if we don't vote on it, it's gonna become legal. Isn't that the way it works?
Let me check.
It's on our schedule of things to talk about.
Well, when?
Between now and the end of the year.
The election from November.
Well, we can't put it on the ballot now.
Well, that's when the election was 2 years ago, and it's a two-year moratorium. So after November 5th, it'll be legal.
Right? Council can.
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
Let me get back with the attorney on that. I said I was gonna do it last week and I haven't, so let me.
I just, don't want to forget because that
one of my
was, yeah. And the power outages, we don't know why, because a lot of people have been talking about those.
Yeah, I was talking to Chris about that before the meeting. Again, Public Works has communicated a little bit with the power company, who potentially knows what the source is, but maybe needs the city, Chris, maybe to reach out and communicate with them. It has been impacting people, as we all know, a lot of you, I'm sure. And then it's also been affecting our water. So it's, yes.
Have you been getting oil notices?
Water notices have gone
I'm
around.
buying a lot of bottled water.
Yeah.
So there have been 3 outages.
Yes.
And then you have to boil water each time.
Yes, so there have been several. So we were just talking right before the meeting that we're gonna reach out and see who we can talk to and explain that this is a high priority for the community of Philomath.
Because there's a lot of people, and I've heard from a lot of people.
And I think you
The Starlight generator, I read it says the pad's being built, but we don't know when the generator's coming. I am concerned that
Pad is done.
the weather Or will that not affect, now that the pad's built, does it not affect if we get into freezing or rainy weather?
Yeah, they can install it anytime.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the
we're just
weather-
waiting for it, and we're on back order. Okay. Thank you, that's all.
I was inspired by Councilor
I'm
Crawford's.
sorry.
No, genuinely. We can follow up on some of that stuff, and this is a little niche, so I can talk to you about it later. But I think like last year, someone at the farmers market had talked to me about some accessibility and safety issues at Mary's River Park with like there's like some ledges, like ledges onto bridges or onto boardwalks, and I think Gary had indicated he wanted his guys to fix that this summer, and I just wasn't sure if that was happening or what the status of that is.
We had the conversation, but I kind of left it, so let me follow up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then going in for the bus shelters. When are the actual shelters going in? Kind of exciting.
That just depends on their scheduling a little bit, so
Okay.
Public Works is working on those, but it's when everything else isn't happening, get on it, so. Yeah, they were just working on the one last week in front of Boulevard Apartments and getting it leveled out, so they're working on them.
Okay.
Start seeing them pop up for the next couple weeks.
I'll keep an eye on it.
In the past, we as a council have supported Chris in using his time to advocate for a grocery store in our town. A little update this afternoon, received an email from Bill McKay from McKay's Grocery. He will be arriving, visiting our town October 1st in the morning. In the email, it was first thing that I thought was hopeful, since it's email, is that he has questions and a proposal. So I took that as being somewhat positive. So I would like to know if we as a council would support Chris in adequately preparing for that meeting on October 1st, because he wants to really come to know our city, its community, its needs, and the possibility of bringing a store to our town, which would require Chris to dedicate some time in preparation for that meeting on October 1st. So does he have our support in putting forth the efforts to prepare for that meeting adequately? So McKay's Grocery is there's one in Newport, there's one in Wellport. If it takes some time, I think it would be worth him preparing to give an adequate portrayal of our grocery desert here. Yes.
Or to whomever, I don't know how much he has on his plate, but yeah, to whomever's staff.
Yes. Oh yeah. Thank you. Whomever's going to be presenting, I would really like the meeting to be. I will not be in attendance. I have a grandchild coming, but yeah, I know another one. Lucky number 13. Anyway, I really have. It's been an intense effort to maybe meet the needs of our community members. It is very apparent that they would like I haven't met one person who said, please don't bring a store to our town, just so you know. Everyone's really supportive.
Two.
Oh, you did? Oh. So I would really appreciate if we are prepared as a city for that meeting to put on our best proposal and face and let them know who we are and how desperately we need a grocery store.
I absolutely support that. I've talked to people that just today they brought up, we really need a grocery store. So that is very, very exciting. Thank you for being dedicated and following through and keeping working on this. And I do think we might only get one chance with this guy, so we should hopefully take the time to do it right.
I just wanted to say, you go first.
Is it on this topic or?
You go.
Okay, cool. I was hoping that when you talk to the lawyers, I know it's not as time sensitive, but if you could bring up cannabis as well, just so that we can kind of get some, have that in their mind, even if we don't talk about it immediately. And then the other thing was, do you have an update on the housing on 14th Street, the potential workforce housing that we had that work session on.
I don't.
I wasn't sure if there's been any more conversations with the,
No.
Yeah, 20th.
the,
14th and, oh yeah, 20th and May.
The 20th.
oh, no, or either, I guess. Either properties, city properties. We had originally talked about the one on 14th, but then also the potential for.
You're moving forward with that project on 20th with that developer, right?
I need to follow up with the developer,
What
and I got the
project?
green light, and so he's moving forward, but we need to coordinate back.
What project?
20th in Maine.
Person who came and spoke to council.
Oh, I thought we were originally shooting for 14th.
It's 20th. Going to talk to us and had a specific proposal.
Yeah, I swear that was, wow.
No, long summer.
Yeah. I also just wanted to mention that regarding those certificates of occupancy, I personally appreciate you holding the line and
Yes.
getting that infrastructure in place before offering those certificates, despite having people asking. I just feel like it's the right precedent, or I feel like it's the right way to go. It's the right decision. And I support you, and it sounds like I hear a number of people saying the same thing.
Yeah, I was just asking for clarification so I could give a reasonable answer to people that were asking.
Yeah.
I just wanted to support other council.
And the calls we've been getting have been about just timeframes and setting expectations. People that, gave notice on their apartment 5 days ago and moved out 15 days ago, and they're living in temporary housing situations, so.
I also wanted to offer council opportunity to offer reports.
Oh. Yeah. Community Foundation, yeah, I'm their liaison, and I went to the meeting just a couple nights ago, and, they're doing very well, they're wonderful, and they gave out 16 scholarships this, spring for graduation, and, it's an amazing group of people. And they're looking to grow and expand, and it's all a good thing. Anyway, that's all, but it's great.
Thank you. We'll just, go ahead.
Are you going to talk about strategic plan? Just checking.
I'll be mentioned at the OMA meeting. Sure, Council Lehman is very familiar with this, but the Dalles, I am not aware of this otherwise, but the Dalles have an amazing series of murals. Of murals that were all painted within a 5-day period. An event that took a lot of community effort and a lot of volunteer. But the event is called Wall Dogs. And Wall Dogs, and there's videos online about it, but Wall Dogs is a group of artists that come from around the world together to celebrate community, specifically their own community. They all like to come together and do something awesome and fun. And they all came to the Dalles a couple years ago.
3 years ago.
3 years ago. And I don't know, it sounds like it was like 25 murals or something throughout the community that they painted, and they're all spectacular, and they're all based on, like, local based on history. And anyway, I just thought it was really awesome, and it made me think, we need at least one mural. We have a bunch of empty walls, we should have some murals. If, not that the city should be, not that the city needs to take that on, but I think there are a lot of community efforts, and I was also talking to the Oregon Arts Association or something like that, and they seem really interested in seeing more of that around.
I think Maxtivity is doing some partnerships there and trying to bring some artists in to do that type of work too, so that'd be a good nonprofit to work with.
I'd love to map out all the empty walls. Murals. Anyway, just thought I'd throw it out there.
I guess this isn't an official liaison, but I'm also on the county library board. And we are going to be holding a board meeting at the Philomath Community Library. Partly because they all wanted to, in conjunction with the expansion feasibility study. I think Ashley, the library director, kind of wanted the board to see that facility since most of them live in Corvallis. So, yeah, you know, come say hi if you're looking for something fun to do on this first Wednesday in November, whatever date that is.
Is that the first Wednesday?
Yeah.
So next on the agenda is an update on the fourth quarter strategic plan update. Chelsea, you sound like you're like kind of chomping at the bit.
Well, I did promise the park board that I would make sure that.
Oh, yes.
I'm just trying to flip them. It is Chris's.
Chris, you want to?
Item.
Yeah, this is fourth quarter, so this ended the fiscal year. Year for strategic plan, so if some things look like they're missing, they probably are. They're in the one that we've talked about most recently, which is the 24-28 version of this. I did provide you a new copy of that because I think since we finalized it, I hadn't given you a hard copy of that. And then it got brought to my attention, of course, there's a few little typos in there, so we'll get those fixed in the website. Thank you, Councilor Kazi.
What are we gonna do without you?
Yeah, she needs. I know.
Yeah.
We're sending it to you just to have you look at.
But no, I mean, overall, and you know, this is a good gut check for us at the staff level too, to go through this and see, frankly, everything that got done. All the things that we were able to put completed by or in progress. Some of the things kind of spilled over and are in progress. But the strategic plan is working well, I would argue. There's a lot of stuff that's getting done. A lot of these action items are getting addressed. Again, some things spill over from year to year, but a lot got accomplished. So kudos to you for supporting this budget-wise and otherwise, and supporting staff on knocking these out. I think having clear objectives and action items is the key to being successful. And it's those small and little things that we do that you look back over time and you see all the big changes. You know, those big things happen, but this is an accumulation of little small things that get done throughout each day and each week. And that's a kind of an important principle to look at. We love doing these big, huge projects and saying, wow, look at that. But really, when you can look back over, you can see 4 or 5 years of all these little action items that led to this action or this objective or goal getting accomplished. That's, I would say, equally, if not more impressive than these big projects. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, happy to answer any questions on here on specifics. This is really more just an internal document. We don't post the quarterly reports like on the council website or anything like that, or the web page. Here, but otherwise, this is more of an internal check for you to see what got done. And then more importantly, if there's any additional changes or things, I don't want to open up too much here, but on the current strategic plan, if there's things on there that you're seeing that look out of line from what we last talked about, we can talk about now, or you can just email me those and we can go back and compare notes. But my best knowledge and notes, that was where we ended things after the last discussion. So happy to answer any questions you've got.
I appreciate the updates to the strategic plan. I would like to ask the council at this time of moving forward if we can take a closer look at the budget, because we've been undertaking so many big projects. And I know that our reserves have been somewhat just on council. That was the situation that we had recently resolved. And I'd like to get us back on target there. If our finances are not in order, it's going to be pretty hard to accomplish very much.
I feel like we have an ongoing revisit to the budget with checks. How are you feeling about that? I feel like
Yeah,
I mean, I spoke to this during budget season. I think the one thing I didn't talk a lot about on budget season is we've been, and we're not alone in this by any means, but everybody's been dealing with moving targets on these projects. I mean, when you're 3% over on a $10,000 project, that's one thing, but when you're 3 to 5% over on an $18 million project, that's hard to swallow, and that's where our reserves have gone, is towards these overages on streetscapes, on water plant, on every project that we're doing, and it's no fault of the engineer, it's nobody's fault, right? Well, I can blame a few people, but we don't want to get political, right? You know, which side politically, right? And so, at the end of the day, yes, there's been overages, and yes, we've done that. But again, when you're dealing with as big a projects as we're doing, well, I get to this point, but it is still a concern. So I'm concerned. I don't see this as a systematic problem where we spend more money than we're bringing in every year. I think we've had some very large projects that have cost us more than we'd anticipated. We've had to dip into reserves and take away from other projects that we wanted to do in order to pay for them. Not all public works, right? I mean, some of this is general fund as well that's affecting, where there's projects and things we do in parks and other places that impact there as well. And on top of all of that, which I did address, our personnel expenses have also gone up significantly as well. And that is across the board. That's every city in the state of Oregon, and most places across the country have seen that, where you're having to pay your employees more money to stick around and come to work every day. I would love to say that we would all just come and keep working for the same price we were working at 5 years ago, but that's not the reality, right? The employee market has shifted, and with that, our employee costs have gone up. And we are primarily in the general fund. We're primarily a service-based organization. We bring in the tax money, and we spend the tax money mostly on services. And services are carried out by personnel. And so that expense has been up as well. And not just per the individual employees, but we're also bringing on a new police officer, bringing on a public works utility workers. So, you know, bringing on an assistant city manager. Don't know what we did before we had her, right? Like, there's positions we've added that are paid for solely out of the general fund that I can't see us living without anymore, with as much stuff as we're doing and the big projects we're taking on. And I don't see us shifting back from that. So I don't want to sound like excuse making, but I do think that there's underlying reasons why we can see why the budget came up this last year. And once these big projects are done, we'll know exactly the impact of that, because I don't think we're done with change orders yet and increasing expenses. But I do see us stabilizing, and I do see us coming back to being able to build reserves again instead of taking away from. This is the first year we've had to deplete our general fund reserve in 7 years, 8 years. So that's a big change. And yes, it was a concern as a yellow flag, but again, I think there's enough things explaining what happened, and I don't see, again, a systematic change in the way we're doing things, where we're just spending money willy-nilly out of the general fund. And I know that wasn't what you said, but I feel like we've got a lot of checks in places. The strategic plan is one of those checks, right? We need to do better at saying, is it in the plan? Because this is what we budgeted for financially, with our time, with our resources. This is what we budgeted for. Is it in the plan? Let's do it. Is it not in the plan? Okay, let's add it to the plan, and let's plan on when we're going to be able to address it. Because even great ideas sometimes can't get taken on right now, right? And, I'm a sucker for saying yes and trying to make people happy and doing what we all want to do, but sometimes we need to say, great idea, let's talk about putting the plan, and let's talk about when we can do it, because right now we can't. That's a tough one for everybody to do, especially when constituents are asking for stuff. City council members are asking for things, staff are asking for things. We all have good things we want to do, but the reality is we do need to budget check not only our time, but our finances on what we can afford to really do. So,
And I'm not questioning anything that we've done. I think everything that has been done well and carefully and as cost effectively as possible. What I'm advocating for is a closer look at the budget, perhaps on a monthly basis. Okay, this is where we are, this is where we're going, and this is what we expect it to look like, so that we can actually, because I don't have a feel, I believe believe in the recovery that you described, but I don't have a feel for it. And I don't see the numbers often enough that I can really get my arms around it.
I think Mike might be able to throw in a little bit of a summary report. Yeah. Management report or something.
Yeah, and we're a little in between. There's some, depending on, I mean, you can always kick it down. There's things we can do immediately right now. Some of the website platforms that we looked at have some tools that will allow more of that kind of monthly reporting and kind of ongoing things. It's got to match with our software and some other things that are out there. But there's other reports and things we can do. They take a little bit more time. They're not as seamless, but there's more we can do to report back a little more often. Right now, we do quarterly reports, and that goes out to the entire budget committee and the council. But admittedly, we don't sit down every month and spend 20 minutes going through the budget, right? And we've never really done that. We've never really had the need to do that. I think we're watching the budget very closely as your staff, but we can definitely come to the council more often if that's what the council wants to see more of, to be more familiar with where we're at money-wise on it.
Could be that it goes to the finance committee, right? And like, not to the whole council. I mean, they can all look at it, but it seems to me that maybe not everybody spent time on it.
Whatever you wanna do. Again, some cities spend quite a bit of time looking at the finances every city council meeting, and others just don't. We just haven't, you know?
Thank you for that, Councilor Kazi. And as a reminder, we do have an action in goal 1.2, explore ways to post the budget and other financial information on the website. And so
What's the date on that one?
25 to 26. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Website's in place.
I remember because
Wait a minute.
Mike was saying that he was just getting his hands wrapped around just, new position, new budget, new everything, and that it would take some time to do some of that research. So I'm looking forward to it because I know that there are other cities. I've looked into this, other cities, similar sizes and financials that will post those transactions and such.
On this topic, I do want to mention that I feel really fortunate at the OMA meeting. I heard time and time again from so many mayors that they were going to the voters with levies, trying to raise additional funds, trying to impose fees on their general fund. And they were all coming, many people come to us and they're just like, well, what's the situation like here? And I'm like, I feel really fortunate. We dipped into our reserves this year, but we also got rid of our general fund fee just a couple years ago that we had for years. And I feel really fortunate. We've all had increasing costs, but I feel like we are in a situation where we are pretty stable. We have the 5.3 income tax rate. Some of these communities, 0.58, 0.63. And they're stuck in that situation until the legislature does something different. We're in such a great space, and I'm very fortunate. I feel very fortunate. So, anyway, Councilor Moore, I thought you had.
I did, and I'm trying to remember what I was going to say back then.
Way back then.
Yeah, honestly.
You follow if you think about it.
Oh, I guess, yeah, I was just, something that kind of makes sense to me is if we could just wrap maybe like a budget update in with the strategic plan, like quarterly updates. It just kind of seems like they go together a little bit in my head. Like, here's what we're up to and how much money we've spent on it. And then we don't have to do something every month necessarily, but yeah.
And changing topics, I'd like to know, as a city of volunteers, the Park Advisory Board, what were they proposing as far as a formalized program?
Well, so they've talked quite a bit about volunteerism in parks, and because the world has changed, there are just a lot more requirements from cities to allow someone to come volunteer. We have kind of, limped along a little bit on how to provide that when people come to us, but you know, our insurers, CIS, our agents really say that for us to actually be protected from liabilities and such, we need to have a more formalized volunteer program. But I know this from my previous experience that it's a lot of work. So, and I know it's forms, it's applications, it's volunteer job descriptions, it's insurance. We have to pay for insurance. So there's a lot that goes into it. And speaking of strategic plan, I just felt like they asked for me to come back with information on how to make it, they want people to be able to volunteer in parks. They want people to adopt Westbrook Park and say, we're the friends of Westbrook Park and we want to volunteer. What we have had some success in is having like a church or Girl Scouts, an organization that can get a certificate of liability insurance and come volunteer as a group that's going to take that liability on. We've had some success with that, but having individuals volunteer or a friends of group is not going to have that coverage. And we just really don't have the ability right now to be able to do that from a liability standpoint. But it's a lot of work. I mean, it just really is, and it will have some financial impact, although I don't think it's a huge amount, but there's considerations on, do you cover them under workers' comp, which is a lot more staff time to track, or do you cover them under a different policy that may not quite provide as much liability coverage? So it's a big discussion. And so what I told them in the end was that I felt that this was it's not just something that I could say, hey, that's a great suggestion, I'm going to go back and do that. It really is more of a council decision on our staff time and our resources. I personally do not feel right now that I have the capacity to do it. I think it is important if we're going to start trying to promote that again in the future and get people having the ability to come do that. It's important that we do this. But Chris and I are very, very swamped, and I don't have the capacity currently. I know it needs to be done. So that's why I put it in here. I told them that I can't just go out and do it for you, but I will make sure that the city council knows, so that potentially when we do the next strategic plan update, we can try to have this for a discussion for you all. Thank you. Yep.
I would suggest that we talk to the school district and find out what they do. Used to be people would just walk in and it was no big deal. Now there's background checks and all the other things that you're talking about, but they've got the system in place, and maybe we can adopt their system or learn from them and not have to do a lot of extra research or something.
Yeah, I feel, confident knowing what we need to do. CIS actually has a lot of resources for us, forms, but to get it to be efficient and not take time, it's probably gonna have to be an online process. I assume the school district has some of that and could give tips for sure, because those are the things that can take time, right? If you're having to paper form everything, and that takes an immense amount of time.
I think it's a great idea and definitely something we should have. I mean, I like just including my father asking me how they can get involved in the party. So I guess just to clarify, like, is this just sort of FYI, and then when you have time, you'll come back with like a proposal, or I get like what?
It's in the strategic.
I'm saying this is not in the strategic plan, but in
Right.
order for us to put a date and a goal on it, it probably needs to be, just because it is a big item. So when you look at the strategic plan again and are looking through, what do we want staff to be spending time on?
Okay.
This is maybe something that you want to talk about at that time.
Gotcha. You don't need us to like make a motion.
No, I just said that I would pass this on and give you.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
One thing I would consider is, for the Park Advisory Board, is to think, how can they address volunteerism using the forms that we have now, the churches, and how can we motivate those youth groups and other church organizations and those that can, under their insurance umbrella, volunteer in our city? How can we promote that better? Because I think that's a really untapped, we do somewhat through our church. A lot of churches do service projects without, and groups do service projects in our city. But I think we can do a lot better in promoting that. I have a church group that I'm working with now that is gonna be doing a community service, thing, and I think they're looking for ways of serving. They're looking for ways of being involved in the community. So I think that would be a good outreach. Maybe we can find a way to do that through the.
Okay. That, we can adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Chris, we can